Hey there, what is going on? We are ready to rock and roll. Hope you guys are doing all right. Definitely very excited for this webinar. We have an awesome guest that's going to be joining us today. He's actually one of our speakers for the Wealth and Health Business Summit that's coming on in Weston, Florida on April 9th and 10th. He's a top-selling author in the niche of health and wellness and fitness, and he's also authored many books on personal development, on growth. His most recent book, Breaking Through Your BS, is an absolutely phenomenal book. I got to work with him behind the scenes and production of one of the top personal development events here in North America. And Derek's been a phenomenal friend. And when I gave him the call and he offered and he accepted on being one of the lead trainers at this event, it was an absolute honor. And I had to get him on a webinar before the event to be able to share with everybody what it takes to really build strong amounts of authority, of credibility in your business. There's no better business card in the world than giving someone your book. And he'll probably break down a lot of these statistics with you and a lot of in-depth insight on the power of having your own book, on how simple it is to create your own book. But just the fact that it can build such a raving fan base for you, even if you're not a professional writer, even if you don't have the best content in the world, but just something that allows you to say, hey, how's it going? My name's Andres Ospina. I'm a weight loss expert, and I'm the author of How to Lose 60 Pounds in 60 Days. Something like that is so powerful that it can take your business to a whole nother level. And most people stop themselves from taking themselves to that level simply because they think that publishing a book is too difficult, or they don't want to come out with crappy content and hurt themselves and deal with the criticism. They don't know where to start. They're not professional writers. And Derek's going to help you guys break through a lot of that BS. And he's really going to break it down for you guys on this webinar on how to skyrocket your business through publishing a book. So hope you guys appreciate the fact that I'm just going right into it right away. No introductions. If you guys don't know who I am already, I'm Andres Ospina, founder of Health Pros Academy and the Wealth and Health Business Summit. And our goal here with this company is really teaching health and fitness professionals how to be better salespeople, better marketers in order to improve and eliminate the global health epidemic that's going on in our world today. If you're a health and fitness pro on this call today, you have a huge mission on your hands, which is helping people live longer, healthier lives, helping them prevent illness versus them having to go to the doctor to deal with all the symptoms and the crap and all the pharmaceutical corruption that goes on. And I can talk about it all day, but that's what this company is about. And that's the whole mission behind everything we try to teach you. The more information about your philosophy, about your knowledge that you can get out there, the more lives you're changing, the more money you're making, and the longer, more prosperous of a business you're going to have. So I want to just get right into it. I want to bring Derek on right now. So Derek, are you there with us? Can you hear? Can you hear me?
I'm here, Andres. I'm honored to be a part of this and share what I can about using a book to transform your fitness business. So I'm going to jump right into it. You're going to hear a little bit more about my story in a moment. I'll just touch upon one thing that Andre said, which is I'm a personal development author. Well, I actually got my start, as you're going to see, with health and fitness books. That was my primary niche and passion in interjecting personal development with health and fitness. So when it comes to speaking with fitness professionals, anyone in the health and fitness industry, this is my big passion. I've been into health and fitness for over 10 years. So the combination of my fitness background with the book background, this is right up my alley. I'm so excited about this. So we're going to kick right into this with the presentation on how to use a book to transform your fitness business. So you can establish yourself as the go-to authority, get more leads, and generate massive exposure by creating a book even if you're not a writer, are crazy busy and have no idea how to start. Because I appreciate that many people in your businesses, you have a lot going on. The last thing on your mind, even if you know how powerful a book can be, is to stop what you're doing and sit down and go write a book. So I'm going to show you how it's actually possible and practical for you to create a book, because I know the impact that it can have on your business and on really any business. What you're going to learn is why a book is the missing link to becoming the go-to expert in any health and fitness market. Andres already touched upon this. When you can say, I'm author of the book, whatever, that instantly changes how people perceive you. How to create your first book, even if you're not a writer, don't believe you have anything to say, and are too busy to add anything to your to-do list. So I'm all about making this practical and doable. And by the way, even if you have written a book or published a book, you're still going to pick up some insights on how to get your second book out there and third book out there, because even if you're not in this mindset yet, I promise you, you can have more than one book in you and use multiple books through some of the techniques that I'm talking about to get multiple books out there without actually having to take a lot of extra time to get these books created, by leveraging things that you've already done. And then how I created fitness books that went on to become #1 bestsellers and generated thousands of leads on a limited budget and without a big following. So I started out pretty much dead broke, as you're going to hear about in a second. I didn't have a big following. I didn't have a lot working in my favor, and I still managed to get books out there and become successful with it. So I truly believe that if I was able to do it, anyone can do it with the right knowledge, the right tenacity, hard work, and the skill set. So a little bit about my background. I graduated from college with a degree
Hey,
in
Derek,
music.
sorry, I don't see your slideshows moving if you're flipping through the slides.
Okay, could there be a delay? Because right now it should be about Derek Doepker. That's what I have. Has it moved
Not
at all?
seeing that. Oh, now it has. Yeah. Can you go to full screen?
Okay, so I see it on here about Derek Doepker, correct?
Yeah, I see it now.
Okay, cool. It might just be a delay, so I'll try to keep that in mind as we're going through it. And then I'm going to do full screen, so you got about me, right, Andres?
Perfect. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so there might be a little bit of a delay, so I'll keep that in mind as I'm doing this. So I graduated from college in 2009, got my degree in music, moved out to LA to become a rock star. So at this point, I did not have just a little bit of background, although I was passionate about health and fitness. It's something that I had studied just on my own. A lot of online research, been working out for 10 years since I was about 17 years old. I wasn't an expert. I wasn't a personal trainer. I didn't have my degree in anything related to fitness or health or anything like that. I was just an aspiring rock star who moved out to LA, who was valet parking cars, delivering hot wings, interestingly enough. Even though I wouldn't eat hot wings, I had to do whatever I could to get by and pay the bills. And I was pretty broke. I want to put some stuff in perspective. Just, if money or things like that are ever a concern for you when it comes to publishing a book, I was absolutely broke. I was selling off music equipment to be able to pay my rent, selling off my keyboard, all my video game stuff, like sleeping on an air mattress for about 2.5 years. So I was just hustling to get by. And at the same time, shortly before I moved to LA, I got bit with like the entrepreneurial bug. So I started reading personal development books. I started studying this idea of being an infopreneur or information marketer, this idea that you can take knowledge that you have and share it with the world and get paid for it. And I thought it was an awesome idea, but I had a lot of self-doubt. I'm like, well, I'm not really an expert. I mean, what am I going to say? What could I possibly create? So I really wrestled with this idea that, okay, I go to these seminars, and it was in 2011 when I moved to LA. I went to the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and Andres and we met through Peak Potential's events, and that's one of their events. And so I just kept hearing this stuff about, like, you can share your message, you can share your gifts, your expertise, But I'm like, that's cool. It doesn't really work for me. I'm just like a guy that's a musician, but I really love health and fitness. I really want to change people's lives and make an impact. And all these people are coming to me for advice. And so I was like, well, on one hand, clearly people are coming to me for help because I have something to offer them. On the other hand, I don't feel like I'm worthy or qualified enough to share anything with them. So how many of you can relate to maybe other people see your gifts, but you're not quite sure you're good enough to really do anything with it? That's what I was going through. And finally, I just said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take some small steps. I started shooting YouTube videos, just sharing some tips. I started a blog and putting information out there, really just with the intention that I don't want to keep answering the same questions over and over that my friends and family ask me. Let me just shoot a video and send them the video. Let me just write a blog article. And gradually, as I found my voice, as I built my confidence, I decided to create this whole video training course and put about 18 hours of content together, transcribed it, put together like this 350-page book to go with it. And I said, name your own price. Like, you can get all of this for $1 just to really get something out there and get some momentum going. And I could barely sell that thing to my own friends and family. So it was a little devastating to put all that hard work into something and not see the payoff. But I was going to make it or die trying at this point, because I had reached the point where I said, you know, it's not even just about making money. I start to realize that people really need what I have to share. So have you ever had that feeling like you're just meant to do something? You're called to do something. You've been given this knowledge and insight, and people are begging you for it. And at that point, I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep hustling. And I'm not going to go into, you know, all the stuff that happened over a couple years. To make a long story short, I discovered this idea of Kindle book publishing. So in the middle of 2012, I took some of that, my blog articles, the different things. I created a book, put it on Kindle. It barely sold. I created another book, How to Stick to a Diet, put it on Kindle a few months later. And at this point, I actually made about $70 to $100 in that first month of sales. Now, that was probably about breaking even with what I invested into it, but I saw some hope. And right when I was about to give up and just be like, I don't know if there's anything to this whole book publishing thing, I went to a seminar. A mentor of mine, Brandon Broadwater, he taught me a lot about the skills of influence. And I got into this state where it was not just about having a successful book. I just wanted to share something I was passionate about with the world. And I put together my third book, 50 Fitness Tips You Wish You Knew, end of 2012. And as you can see here, this is some of the results that it achieved later. There it is.
So I'm not seeing it.
Okay, so the slide will catch up. So I'm going to tell you the story. I published it in 2012, December 2012. Within a few weeks, it hit #1 in weight loss. So at that time, this was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Body was at the top of the charts. I passed over Tim Ferriss with my little self-published book, 50 Fitness Tips You Wish You Knew. Through all the research that I had done, through all the skills that I had accumulated in book publishing. And Andres, you can let me know when the slide updates that even later I have this book and I promoted it, and it became at one point #1 in self-help. The slide shows it at #2 in self-help. Do you have it, Andres? Is it updated?
Yeah, now.
Yeah,
Yep.
so what you're seeing
Just
here
now.
Yeah, what you're seeing here is the book is above Tony Robbins. The book is ranked above Jack Canfield. So that means for this point in time, I was, you know, for those days, I was outselling these authors. I think this book sold close to 3,000 copies in a single day at its peak, the ebook of it. And shortly after I published the book in 2012, I sold hundreds of copies. I don't even remember. I know it was over $5,000 in royalties that I made in 11 days from this book. Now, keep in mind, I'm valet parking cars. I put this book out there, and it skyrockets to the top of the chart. And I'm like, my whole life is going to be different from this point forward. The book finally made a breakthrough. I can do something with this knowledge and this information that I have around health and fitness, and people actually want it. They're going to buy my book. And so all that old nonsense, all that old BS about who am I to have a message, who am I to put a book out there? I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the skills, I don't have the following, I don't have any of this stuff. I realized that if I can do it where I was coming from, then, you know, really, like I said, anyone can do it. But I say that with a caveat: anyone assuming they get the right skills, they have the right tenacity, the work ethic, and they're willing to do what it takes. And then you can let me know, Andres, if you see the Healthy Habit Revolution showing up here. This is another book that I published in health and fitness that's went to #1 in the health and fitness market. A book I published, Why You're Stuck, went to #1. A recent book, Break Through Your BS. I have a book, Weight Loss Motivation Hacks. So it wasn't like a one-time fluke freak thing. I've published now 7 best-selling books over and over, consistently becoming best-selling books. Opened up the doors to I've been on podcasts. Obviously, I'm here on webinars I've done before. I've coached now thousands of aspiring authors have gone through my training courses on book publishing, because it's a system and proven methods to be successful and get a book out there. So Andres, what slide do you see right now? I actually think I can check it. You see the Healthy Habit Revolution?
Yeah, that's what I see right now. Healthy Habit Revolution.
So the point, what I want to get across here is that when you understand this stuff, it's possible for you to do this, and it's possible to even have repeated results. So maybe you want to publish multiple books, but I imagine many people, it's not about publishing 7 best-selling books. It's really just about saying, I can get a book done, I can get it out there, and people are actually going to pay attention to what I have to say. People want what I have to offer, and I believe that everyone on here, you're an expert in some way, and people need your voice and what you have to share with the world. So what kind of impact, even if you just reach 100 people with your book and they come to you for coaching or for training or become a client of yours and you get to change their life, is that worthwhile? And I believe that when you understand just how feasible it is to create a book, even in a single afternoon, you're going to see that creating a book is a no-brainer. So a little bit about me just going forward now. I'm committed to empowering aspiring authors and fitness experts with the knowledge I wish I had when I first started. Like I said, I struggled for a long time. I struggled for a few years. And once I had my breakthrough, I was able to repeat my success over and over again because of what I had learned about the process, and now what I share with other aspiring authors and experts. So you might not see these slides update. I'm just going to kind of go through them. It's okay if it's on a little bit of a delay. So what makes this different? I'm here to say, not just here to say that you should write a book. I'm going to go ahead and get all the slides updated. Not here to say that you should write a book and then leave you at that. I want to actually give you some practical action steps that you can take. So when you get off this presentation, you're actually going to be able to know a few things that you can do to get going on your book. And you know, even if you decide you don't want to publish a book at this moment, if it's not right for you, I promise I'm going to give you some insights that are still going to help you in your business regardless. And I also like to make this simple. So I understand people are busy. I want to give you things that you can do in 5 minutes a day to get in motion, to get some momentum going. And then, you know, if you join us, I'm going to be at the summit with Andres here coming up in April with my business partner, Ben. Then if you're going to be joining us for that, as I encourage you to do, and you're going to be hearing about later, then you're going to get even more insight from us, and you're going to have some momentum already built up and some steps that you've taken. And then finally, you're going to leave this webinar knowing the exact next steps you can take. I'm going to give you a quick action plan that you can start to implement. Now, why do you want to write a book? So the slide might be coming up here in a moment. Well, we've already touched upon a few reasons, but for me, even though a book is great for making royalties, that actually wasn't why I got into writing a book to begin with. It's because, like Andres mentioned, it's the ultimate business card, but it's not just a business card. There's so much more, because I mean, how many people can you hand a business card to, and it's going to open up the door for speaking opportunities or interviews or podcast interviews or media exposure, all these different things. There's no business card that gets you all that stuff, but as soon as you have a book, these doors open up, and sometimes completely hands-free. What that means is, as I get my books out there, I've had people email me saying they want to interview me. I have people get in touch, or if I get in touch with them and say, hey, I've written this book, they're coming back to me asking if I want to be interviewed or on a presentation or doing things like that, because I'm now established as an authority just by having a book. So it's one thing that you create that opens up all of these other opportunities for you. Another reason to write a book is to establish yourself as an expert. But I also want you to look at it from the flip side. If you don't have a book, are people not seeing you as an expert? Because what can happen, as I talk about these opportunities opening up, they might look at you and go, oh, you don't have a book? Oh, well, maybe you're not at the level that we're looking for. And if you get that book written and created, which can be done in a very quick amount of time, then right away you're positioned as an expert. Another reason is that a book can pay you to generate leads passively. So say hashtag winning. You might not see that on the slide yet. So the idea that, for me in my business, that leads are a constant source of leads are essential for any business that you're in. But what are a lot of people doing? They're paying money to generate leads. And that might be somewhat of a necessity, but imagine you're getting paid to get more leads. How amazing is that? Wouldn't that be nice if instead of paying money to get leads, I am getting royalties and new leads added when I just have my book out there? And Amazon, which is one of the places I have my books and where I do a lot of my marketing for, Amazon is driving traffic to my books. Then from the books, they're joining my email list, and I'm getting royalties for it. While I sleep, all of this is happening. And then I have people coming to me for things that I can offer with fitness coaching and workout programs and anything like that have just come to me through my books. I never had to chase them down. They're coming to me. And then a book can open up doors. This is sort of my caveat. Even though a book can open up all these doors, I'm about keeping it real with you. You need to go walk through those doors. So I've heard of authors, they've had a New York Times best-selling book and nothing changed for them. Their phone didn't start ringing off the hook. People didn't start lining up, begging them to come speak at their event. Automatically, they still had to hustle before they saw that come in. So even though a book is going to get you established, I'm not here to come on and say just write a book, stick it out there, and magic is just going to happen and you don't have to do anything anymore. You still need to be proactive in going out there, getting your name out there, marketing yourself, and seeking these opportunities. It's just so much easier that when you take a little bit of that initial step, people are then going to go, yeah, I'd love to have you speak. I'd love to have you do whatever it is that you want to do once they see that you're an author. And then finally, my big reason for doing this, and this was the thing that kept me going when I wasn't seeing success, is really making an impact in the world and changing people's lives, contributing something, sharing my gifts, and leaving a legacy. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to keep the money, the fame or fortune and whatever it is about being an expert or being successful in my industry. That'll go. But what will last is the impact that I made on people. I got an email. I haven't even read it all this morning. I just saw it pop in and I read the first 2 sentences about someone said they read my book, Break Through Your BS, how much they loved it. They said that I have a gift. I saw a message the other day, someone saying that they read a part of my book to someone, a client that they had that was suffering from loss, and how much they loved it. So I'm changing people's lives through my book. And it's surreal to me to kind of even think about it. Like, man, years ago I was parking cars wanting to make a difference in the world. And here I am, because of my books, people are messaging me saying, like, my book helped them get through tough times. My book made all the difference. My book is one of the best books that they've ever read. And I'm like, what? I'm just some dude that plays guitar. Like, years ago, like, I never could have imagined that this would actually be possible. So that's something that I get really excited about that. And I believe that you have your gifts to share with the world. And a book is one of the most impactful ways you can spread your message, because you don't have to be there in person. Even after you leave this world, your book lives on inspiring people and impacting people's lives, and making sure your expertise and the things that you've learned and the things that you have to offer continue going forward, even if you're not around in person. So awesome reasons to write a book. Why would anyone not do it? Well, you might be going through some of the challenges that a lot of aspiring authors or people who've thought about writing a book face, or maybe now you go, Derek, this is amazing. I love the idea of writing a book, but, and then some reasons come in for why you might think it's going to be too tough or not right for you or not right for you right now. So first of all, the big challenge is the inner self-doubt that comes up. So for me, these were the things that went through my mind. Let me know, ask yourself, can you relate to this? Who am I to write a book? What if I don't have anything special to say? I mean, for me, I'm like, yeah, I know about health and fitness, but like, I'm not a personal trainer. What am I going to say that hasn't been written 100 times or 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times in all these other fitness books or diet books or exercise books? Or what if people criticize my work? What if they judge me? What if they say I'm stupid? What if they bash me? And then what if it's not good enough? So there's all this internal dialogue that comes in, and I think it's especially a challenge in the health and fitness world because it's a very saturated market. How many health and fitness books are there out there? How many books are there on the topic of, you name it, diet, exercise, natural health, anything related to that? There's like so many books, and with self-publishing, now it's like new books are popping up every single day. How in the world could I possibly stand out in that marketplace? That was a big thing I struggled with. So if you struggle with it, it's normal. That's what I'm here to help you overcome. Another challenge is there are too many other similar books out there, and I can't compete. So I just mentioned this. There's so many books that, how can I possibly be unique? What can I say that hasn't been said 1,000,000 times before? And that can hold people back. And then another thing is, it's too complicated. There's too much stuff to learn. I've already mastered this area that I've mastered. So whatever area of health and fitness you're in, you're a trainer, or you're a chiropractor, or you're nutritionist, whatever it is that you've developed your skills in, and now I got to go over and get this whole book thing figured out. That's too much new stuff to learn. Maybe later, right? Another challenge is tied into that it's just going to take a lot of time. Like, I want to write a book, but I don't have the time right now. Maybe when my schedule frees up, or I just can't ever even imagine having the time to sit down and write a book. And then finally, it's going to be expensive. So if you're like me, when I started out, I was broke. So like the idea of, okay, I got to get a cover designer, an editor. Even if you go, here's the thing. You might be wondering about self-publishing versus traditional publishing. I'll be getting into this a little bit later. But even if you do traditional publishing, they still expect you to market your book. They still expect you to hustle and build a list and have a following. A lot of times they expect you to have a following before they'll even consider publishing your book. So self-publishing, traditional publishing, any of these things, it takes a budget and it takes some money to get out there. And all of these challenges can stop a person from moving forward with writing a book, even if they want to. So my question is this. If you're thinking about this, I just want you to consider, if there was a way, what if there was a simple step-by-step way to affordably create an awesome book that's going to position you as a health and fitness expert in your marketplace, that you can stand out among all the competition of perhaps, I don't know, tens of hundreds of thousands of similar books, and you could actually get this book done in 90 days, even if you're crazy busy with all your other work and you don't know anything about book writing. If this were possible, hypothetically, if it were possible, would you be willing to commit to writing a book? And it's okay if you don't know right now. I just want you to consider this, because here's what I found. The directions and how to do something don't often come until after the commitment is made. So a quick story, like if I want to be successful, my success in my business, I didn't have all the answers. First, I decided I was going to create my own business and write a book, and then I figured out the path. First, I decided I'm going to get educated, so I sign up for a seminar to go to, even though I don't know how I'm going to get the money, and then I figure out how to get the money. So your commitment comes before the clarity on how to follow through. Or as I like to say, you make a decision and then you get the directions on how to follow through. So a lot of times we wait to have all the answers and solutions before we commit to something. And what I just want to share with you right now is that it's about making the commitment and deciding you're going to do this, deciding, yes, I want to write a book. Yes, I want to make an impact. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm going to do it. And then you'll find the solutions start to come. So maybe you're there yet, or maybe you need a little more information. Either way, it's fine. That's what I'm here to help you with. So I want to give you the big picture overview of what the process is of writing a book to help you simplify it. If it seems like this overwhelming process, let's break it down into a simple 5-step process. First of all, it's going to be market research. And this is a few things, but you really want to know what else is out there. What does my target audience want, or who is my target audience? So I know what is it that I can create that's going to add value, because really all business is adding value to the marketplace. So my struggle at first was, well, I don't know what value I have to add. Any value I could add is already out there. Now that I found isn't necessarily the case. I promise you, as you're going to learn here in a few minutes, you have value to add. You absolutely have value to add, and I'm going to share why. But for now, you just want to consider, I have to kind of do a little bit of a discovery process and see what else is out there and see what people are looking for, and then I can go fulfill that. That's step 1, market research. Step 2 is what I call structure creation. The structure creation is, how do I package my book? Right? What's the title? What's the format that it's going to follow that holds step 3, which is the content of the book? And it's okay if you're not quite sure what this looks like. I'm going to give you examples in a minute. So going on after that, you basically have your book created, and now step 4 is to publish it, get it out there. And there's a few ways: self-publishing, traditional publishing, or something called hybrid publishing. And then finally, you got the book, it's done, it's on the marketplace, maybe it's up on Amazon, maybe it's in bookstores. Now you have to actually market the book and get people to hear about it. Because if, it's kind of a fantasy that I hear some authors are like, great, I did all this hard work, I got the book, I put it out there, and then they just sit there and they go, oh, well, like magic isn't happening, my life isn't changing right now. It's like, well, you got to do the marketing side of things. And for some of you, it might not be about having a best-selling book. It might just be your marketing is having the book sitting in your office that people come and see, or as you go speak or as you train people, you have your book available for sale. So or even just as you're reaching out and doing outreach, you mention that you have this book. So it might not even matter how many copies of the book that you sell. Your marketing might just be more about marketing you and your brand, and then now adding your book into that marketing and positioning. So it's no longer Derek Doepker, some dude that can talk about health and fitness. It's Derek Doepker, author of the #1 best-selling book, 50 Fitness Tips You Wish You Knew. That gets me on podcasts, that gets me on webinars, that gets me out there with a lot of opportunities, just because I added that to my credibility and to my bio. So let's go a little deeper into the steps of the process. So we got step 1, which is research. Okay, now I'm going to give you kind of the overview of each of these steps. Obviously, any one of these things we could do an entire presentation on in depth, but this is just going to give you a feel for it and help give you some confidence and clarity on what the whole process looks like. So with step 1, research, what are role model books? And what do I mean by this? Well, I can look at other books and go, I can do something similar to that. So for instance, I'm a fan of Tim Ferriss, and I mentioned his book, 4-Hour Body. So I look at that and I go, what is this book? What kind of book is it? Well, it's really kind of a case study of a bunch of experiments that he ran. So I use that as inspiration to go, can I do a book that's similar to that? Maybe experiments that I've run or experiments that I've done with my clients and case studies. Another book that I enjoy is Secrets to the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Well, I look at that book, and I'm not going to try to copy what he did with that book, but notice this isn't a health and fitness book, but I use it as inspiration. So here's something that he does in this book. He says, basically, poor people think like this, rich people think like this. He contrasts poor person thinking with rich person thinking. okay, that's a cool kind of comparison that he does. So in my book, Why Authors Fail, I kind of did something similar. I said, struggling authors do this, successful authors do that. So struggling authors write a book and then figure out how to make it, try to figure out how to make it a bestseller. Successful authors ask themselves, what will be a best-selling book, and then go create it. So you see, I researched just through my own reading and through going through other books. I looked at it for inspiration. Now, as a musician, imagine if you want to learn how to start writing music. Well, do you just sit down at a piano and try to start writing songs? Or would you first learn how to play other songs out there, right? You imitate and you model what else is out there and use that to inspire your own work. Or you follow proven templates and formulas that have been established, and now you just fill it in with your own content and you make it yours. So the whole part of the research is, you gotta, if you want to write a book, I suggest reading some books, and I hope you read books or listen to audiobooks or get exposure to books so you get a feel for kind of the different structures and ways the information is presented. And same thing with role model authors, right? If you find you resonate with a certain author or a blogger or a podcaster, whoever it is whose work you resonate with, then you can kind of do something similar. You don't want to copy their style exactly, but you can be inspired by it and do something similar. And that can give you some clarity on, you know what, for me, if I like Tim Ferriss and I do something similar to him, then I'm probably going to attract a similar audience that he does. And then another thing about market research is, what's your market's biggest challenge? So if you have clients and you have customers, great. What was your biggest challenge? What brought you to me? What was it about me that you thought I could be your solution? Get to know what the market is looking for. And in the world of books, here's what I did when I first got started was I looked at health and fitness books that were on Amazon, and I just read the 1 to 3 star reviews, right? The quote unquote negative reviews or the critical reviews. What are people saying that they wish they saw in this book? What do people feel like is missing? What's the fluff that they don't want in the book? And by using that as research or going onto forums or talking to family and friends about their struggles, I got a feel for what people want to know, what they want to hear, and what needs haven't been fulfilled upon for them. So I want you to really be considering who your target audience is by looking at one of 3 things will get you started. Who your current best clients and customers are. So if you already, like I said, if you already have it, that's a great thing to target your books at. If you have an ideal client and you're like, I want to attract more people like this, then how do you speak to them? You know, if I have Susie, who's a high-paying client, who I love working with her, how do I speak to more people who are just like Susie? And Susie becomes my avatar. Another way to figure out who you want to speak to is those who seek your counsel. Who's already coming to you for advice? Who's already coming into your office or reaching out to you for services? And for me, when I started out, like I said, I was a valet parker, right? So I didn't have like a fitness business, but I still had friends and family members asking me, picking my brain, yo, dude, what are you doing? How are you working out? What's your diet like? What's your breakfast like? Right? So I looked at the type of people who are coming to me for advice and who I seem to resonate with. These days, I notice, interestingly enough, that I have like women between ages 30 and 45 who are in corporate jobs, who want to start their own business, are coming to me, they're feeling overwhelmed. I give them a little bit, share some of my insights, and they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed. I don't know why I've attracted, like why my message is helpful for that particular demographic, but I just sit back and look at it and I go, that seems to be what's happening. Maybe I can create something that specifically targets, you know, that type of person. And then finally, the other thing that could be your target market would be your past self. So for me, when I wrote 50 Fitness Tips You Wish You Knew, who was my target person? It was basically Derek Doepker 10 years prior to that. What would I have written to my past self when I first got started in health and fitness? When I created my training course, Kindle Bestseller Secrets, what did I wish someone shared with me, you know, 6 months ago or a year ago when I was first getting into this whole publishing thing? What were the insights that I was missing that made all the difference for me? So that's another type of target audience. So those are 3 things. If you're not sure who you want to speak to, one of those 3 things, I promise you, will get you started. Now, the next thing, once you kind of understand who you're talking to, and you want to figure out how you're going to put the information together. Now, if you're wondering, well, I don't know what to say, here's the thing. It's not primarily about what you say. It's about how you say it, the way you deliver the information. Look, there's a lot of people that can teach self-publishing, but I'm going to do it the way that I do it. I have my own unique style. Some people are going to love my style. Some people aren't going to resonate with it. That's fine. But the important thing is that I own my style and I say it and get clear on how I deliver information. So what you probably have found in your life is that certain people seem to be attracted to you, into your life, friends, clients, people in your business. And the reason is not because you necessarily say or do anything that's never been done before. It's your personality, the way you deliver information. So what this means from a standpoint of books is that there's basically 3 templates that you can follow for how you structure your content. And those are tips books, a step-by-step book, or a storybook. And then within those, you add your own flavor. So here's what a tips book looks like. 50 fitness tips you wish you knew. So what that is...
Hey, Derek, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Hey, so we're still pretty behind on the slides.
Okay.
Try playing around that a little. Boom, there we are. I don't know what you did just there, but whatever you did, that made it completely go back to...
Maybe if I switch over to the presentation. Okay, let me try this. And then I click it. Did it just update? Step 3? So I have to click over to it, which is interesting. I can't just stay in my slide presentation. So thank you.
We're not seeing your slide presentation. We're seeing your control panel for PowerPoint.
Yeah, well, you see the whole screen, but you still see step 2 right now. And then now you see.
And then I can also see. I can see on the left-hand side. I can see all the slides.
Yeah. So I'll go back to that. Okay. But now you see step 3.
Yep.
Perfect. Cool. So I got it. Awesome. So I'll go back to full screen, and I will know how to change and update the slides quicker. So step 2, like I said, tips, story, step by step. So how do you put together your information? Well, if you could do just like a series of individual articles. So if I have a bunch of blog posts, I can compile it together and make a book that's just a collection of tips. Here's some cool things that you can do. You can kind of skip around. It's sort of like a magazine. So do I want to do a book like that? That's a really easy book to create. A storybook would be maybe case studies or your own personal journey of how you went through something. That's a little more challenging. But it's one option. Or the third option, and just pick one of these 3. Just trust me, you only need one of these 3. A step-by-step book. This is the A to Z process. This is the 7-step process. This is your 30-day action plan or your 90-day action plan to accomplish some sort of goal. So your book only really needs to be one of those 3 things, and you can decide which one it is. That's how you're going to structure it and deliver the information. And then, boom, step 3 should update now, right? And then you actually create the content for the book to fill in that. So some people get this hang up, like, oh my God, I'm like writing a book. It's this big deal. It's this epic thing. And it is a pretty big deal. But really, writing a book is just speaking authentically. If you can speak authentically, then you can write a book. To say hashtag ain't nothing but a G thing. Meaning, what is your hashtag ain't nothing but a G thing way of speaking authentically? Here's what I mean. For me, when I first got started, I didn't see myself as a writer, but I thought, well, I can sit here and hit record on a camera and talk about something, right? So I didn't have to necessarily start with writing. I just started considering, what do I have to say in different environments? So I'm going to give you some really practical things. Another thing you can use for inspiration, what do I write about? What am I going to put in a whole book? Here's a great thing. This works for me, might not work for everyone. What pisses you off? If I think about what pisses me off, instantly I am flooded with ideas of things that I can talk about and rant about. Now, it doesn't mean I write my book as just a series of rants of things that piss me off, but that inspires what I can talk about. So here's a practical example. What pisses me off, if I may write like personal development stuff, if I see a book that's like 1,001 ways to be happy, like that pisses me off, because not because I'm against happiness or anything, because I don't want 1,001 ways to do something. Like, give me 5 ways that I can do that's going to work, because now I'm going to just be stressed out and overwhelmed trying to read through 1,001 different things to do. So what does that mean? I value simplicity. I value kind of getting straight to the point. So that's one way of looking at it. Another thing when it comes to health and fitness, what pisses me off when people put a one-size-fits-all recommendation that this is the best diet for everyone. This is the best workout program that everyone needs to do. And that pisses me off, because I believe, well, we're unique. We have different goals. Let's make sure it fits what the person's goal is and their body style. And let's make sure the diet isn't just a good diet, but you can actually follow it. And it makes sense, not just like in a laboratory setting, but in a real world setting. It makes sense psychologically that a person can actually be motivated enough to follow it, right? So if I think about what pisses me off, I can actually find what I stand for, figure out what I stand against, and then I get clarity on what I stand for. That's a great, simple tip that can probably give you endless content creation. It works for me. And if you notice certain things trigger you, we're more likely to remember the things that bug us or elicit pain or bother us just as human beings than we are to think about the things that give us pleasure. So that's a great way to come up with content. And then the big practical strategy I'm going to give you is to stop labeling it as a book if it doesn't help you. You make up the rules. Here's what I mean by that. In my book, Break Through Your BS, and even on this webinar presentation, I use hashtags just sarcastically and pointlessly. Do I need to have like little hashtag things in a book? No, that doesn't make sense, but it's just my personality. It's just a silly thing that I do. So what happens is, if you've ever tried to sit down and write a book or write an article, it's like flashback to English class. I got to be like super proper, and I got to like try to sound really professional and intellectual when I write because this is a book and it's a big deal. And it's like, that's actually probably going to lose a lot of people. Whereas if you spoke casually in your writing and you come across like a real person in a more conversational style, and granted, it depends on what type of book you're doing. This is my avoiding the one-size-fits-all recommendation. But you don't have to perceive it like because it's a book, it's something any different than speaking in the way that you already speak in everyday life in different conversations. So here's even deeper into what that looks like. How do you discover what you have to say in your book? Well, first of all, your everyday speaking, not when you're writing, but when you're speaking in your conversations. If you're sitting down with coffee for someone and they're asking you about your business, are you able to easily express that? Why do you do what you do? Why is it important that a person goes to a chiropractor? Why is it important to eat these certain foods and avoid those foods? What is it in your everyday conversations when you're chit-chatting with friends or clients? What naturally comes out of you? Well, if it's compelling and impactful and helpful to have these conversations with people, imagine you just hit record on a recorder and transcribe that and put that into a book. And let me double check. I've got to make sure the slide updates here. That's content for a book, just your everyday conversations. Interviews are another way to discover what you have to talk about. So if you go on a podcast and you're talking with someone, that's content for a book. Videos, that's how I started out. One of the early things I did, shooting quick little YouTube videos of me talking about some of the things that I had to say. And through shooting those videos, I actually discovered my voice. I discovered what I was passionate about and what I had to say. I don't think I would have done that if I just sat down with a blank Word document and tried to type what I had to say. That would have been too awkward. But if I just shot a video, it worked for me. And by the way, you don't even have to show anyone these videos. And even just for your own sake, you can hit record and shoot some videos and find that helps you. Personally, I like video. Some people get freaked out by videos and being on camera. So you know what? Maybe you don't start with that. The whole point is these are options for you to consider. And then finally, live presentations, webinars, live speaking events. So on this webinar, I am speaking naturally, free-flowing, just letting things come out. Well, here's the thing. I could transcribe this webinar and it could be content for a book on how fitness professionals can publish a book, right? I might want more information in it, but by just doing this webinar and taking the content in what I said here, that's transcribed, edited, fixed up a little bit. I don't even have to do the editing process, and that can be content for a book. Another thing is your hands-on experience. So are you coaching people? Are you doing training sessions? Are you actually on the job, so to speak, doing stuff? And can you take that? And once again, let me make sure this is updated. You got this, right, Andres? The authentic voice discovery hands-on?
Yep, perfect.
Cool. So your hands-on experience, imagine you have a great session. So if I were to be coaching someone in a personal training session, right? And they're asking me some questions and I'm talking to them and I'm chit-chatting. What if I was recording that? Or maybe that's not feasible. What if right after that session I made some notes of, oh, here's a great question that they had and here's the response that I gave them that was really helpful, right? I'm not even having to, I don't have to sit down at a computer screen and try to think up of stuff. I'm just looking at what I'm doing in my everyday life, and that's giving me ideas. Q&A, kind of like an interview, like I mentioned before, but as you're answering people's questions, right? A lot of times for myself, I don't even know what I want to talk about or what people need to hear, but they ask me a question, and as soon as they ask me a question, I'm like, oh yeah, here it is, and I give them an answer. And so I just let other people tell me what they need to know. I answer it, and if I record it or if I make notes about it or do anything like that, that's all content for my book. And that can be content generation without even having to take extra time out of my day. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Maybe this is a strategy you can use if you're busy to start getting content for your book. And then another thing, this is really interesting and something that not a lot of people think about. A third-party observer. So if you've heard this idea of the curse of knowledge, if we're experts or if we know something really well, a lot of times we just take it for granted what we know. And it's not until I'm working with someone or they go, Derek, why do you do that? Or someone asks you, has this ever happened with you? Someone goes, well, why do you do that? Or what was your thinking behind that? And you have to like stop and be like, oh, I've never actually been forced to kind of explain it. I don't know. That's a good question. Then as you start to explore it, you start to think about why you do what you do and the methodology behind it. Well, imagine this. Imagine you're doing your hands-on work and you have a third party come into your office or into your gym or into your coaching session or whatever it is you're doing, and they just watch you and they observe you. And then they start, like a journalist, they go, maybe afterwards, so why did you do this? Why did you say that to them? What was your reasoning for this? And they picked your brain and they force you to start thinking. If you can hire someone or bring someone in as a friend that can just observe you in action and get them to ask you the questions, that can be powerful. Now, the flip side of this, here's another way you can be an expert without being an expert. What if you actually don't have a lot of expertise? What if you're like me, where I knew a lot, but it wasn't because I had discovered it. It was because I researched it. See, there's many people who position themselves as experts and have best-selling books where all they did was go out and research the other experts. So your role might really just be you're the observer and you're interviewing experts and you're going and talking to different people in the fitness industry and you're talking to the nutritionist or the trainer or the naturopath or the whoever, and you're picking all their different brains and you're compiling it together. Now they're the ones generating the content. You just ask the right questions. And so there's a lot of books that I could give as an example for that. But even for me, that's really what my start was. I just researched the world's top experts on psychology and exercise and nutrition and supplementation, and I'm just sharing with you the coolest, best of the best things that I discovered from all my research. Finally, last thing I talk about here is writing. And so let's update the slide. And I save this for last because what happens is, like I said, I open up a Word document and think I'm going to write my book, and I might brain freeze. I might get stuck. But here's something that happened for me recently. I'm going to switch this Facebook post here. The second point is that I thought about actually writing an email, and I've written plenty of emails to my list and on my newsletter. And I was like, I don't know what I want to write about today. And so I just kind of put it aside. But then I got on Facebook, and I was just kind of feeling inspired and talking off the cuff. I made like a cool Facebook post that was just very natural and authentic. And then I go, oh, that was really cool. Why don't I just email out that to my list? It was something personal development and inspiring. I don't know exactly what it was. But I want you to think about what just happened there. If I go on Facebook, it's easy for me to write a post. I'm just going to say whatever. But if I go to my email, oh, well, now it's got to be something different. And when I step back, I'm like, no, writing a Facebook post, an inspiring Facebook post, is the exact same thing as writing an inspiring email or writing an inspiring blog post or writing something that's inspiring in a book, right? But what the brain does is it, in these different contexts, it says it needs to be something different. When I'm writing a book, no, that's different than writing a blog post. But when I'm writing a blog post, no, that's different than writing a Facebook post. Oh, when I'm writing a Facebook post, that's different than when I'm just talking to my friend. At the end of the day, you're just speaking authentically. You're just sharing something that you have to say. So if you get caught up and if you get kind of stuck, even like I get stuck as a writer, you know, after all these years, I switch the context. Maybe if I write a blog post and call it that, and I do that, then all of a sudden my blog post, I step back, I look at it and I go, you know what, that's perfect for a chapter in my book. And then it becomes a chapter in my book. Or I write my book, and sometimes from my book, I go, that little section there would make a great Facebook post. That little quote there would make a great tweet. So all of this stuff is interconnected. If you find yourself, the whole thing I want you to consider is, where do you naturally speak best? Where do you naturally write best? What comes easily to you where there's not this inner resistance and mind frick coming up that takes you out? And you work in that environment for a little bit, and this can all eventually just get pushed over and say, okay, that can be in my book. So the ideas here: blog posts, Facebook posts, tweets, emails. If you've already created this stuff and you already have tons of content, all of that can be leveraged to create content for your book. And that leads me perfectly into this next point about creating content fast, which I've touched upon. Leverage what you've already created. If you already, I guarantee there's many people out there who are going to be, if you really think about it, of all the things you have recorded or written or emails you've exchanged with people, maybe just casual email conversations. Look, you can go back and dig some of that stuff up, and you might have great insights for a book. Here, what are the emails of people, the questions that people ask me when they shoot me an email? Those are great questions to answer inside the book, and you may have already answered it in the email. You just got to go through and collect it, or maybe pay someone to collect the information. And then you can record yourself while you're out and about. There's times where I'm on a long car drive, I hit the recorder on my phone, I'm driving down the road, and I just start talking about something. Or you're recording, like I mentioned, if you're in your work session, or you're speaking live, or you're doing coaching or some sort of training, if you're recording all of that, that can be content for a book. There's plenty of people who they've never actually sat down and written their book. They just recorded their live presentations. They had a ghostwriter go through and edit it and take the transcriptions and then create the book for them. And then finally, huge point, especially if you've ever suffered from perfectionism or it's got to be too good, I say do crappy work faster. Meaning that when I write a book, the first draft sucks. The first draft is horrible. And I know for myself, I still struggle with writing a book, and I go, this sucks, this isn't any good, and I'm tempted to go back and delete it. And I have to keep reminding myself, no, Derek, everything you've ever done started out crappy. So if you get stuck in this writing, starting to write something, and then you, no, I gotta delete it. No, that's not good. If you like take one step forward and then one step back constantly, that's your analytical, like quality control part of your brain kicking in too early. Okay, the first thing you need to do is just get all your ideas out there. Just speak it out. Just brain dump it. Just write a bunch of words and that can suck and not be any good or not be anything anyone wants to hear. But get that out there and then figure out how to polish it. So that's a whole training unto itself. I just want to leave you with that, to let that sink in. Ask yourself, do you ever kind of start to do stuff and then you second guess yourself? You've maybe written something, but you haven't put it out because it's not good enough. All these things, you need the feedback. You need the outside feedback. You need to look at your work to be able to figure out how to tweak it. You can't tweak it before you've created it. And then step 4, publishing. Verify Andre CC Publishing right now. I want to make sure it's been staying up to date, right?
I do. Yep.
Okay.
Publish.
Cool. So the system is working then. So step 4, publishing. This is where we go, should I do self-publishing, traditional publishing? There's something called hybrid publishing, which is a benefit of the both. Well, the question is, what's your goal? And I can't answer that for you on this webinar presentation, and I'm not one to give one-size-fits-all advice. but that's the question to ask, is what's your goal? I'll give you a little bit of insight though on the pros and cons of these different things to help you get some clarity. So first of all, I personally do self-publishing for everything I've done so far, but there's definitely benefits to traditional or hybrid publishing if you want to have mass reach in the bookstores and things like that. However, consider that skip into the last part, you need to do promotion on your end regardless. So if you think, oh, if I just go to a traditional publisher, they're gonna like make my book a bestseller. No, they might pay you in advance, but they're gonna expect you to hustle a lot. And so what many people have told me who have done both traditional and self-publishing is that, first of all, they still have to do their own work with the traditional publisher, and they like the self-publishing model because they get to keep a higher percentage of their royalties. So it's like, if I'm spending my money to promote the book, I'd rather keep more of the money. Certain opportunities might open up, you know, if you're on the New York Times bestseller list, but for the vast majority of people, getting your start with self-publishing is a great option because you can always build your audience with self-publishing and then go to a traditional publisher later. Another thing I've heard from people is that they did go through a traditional publisher and then the book went out there and they didn't do anything, the publisher didn't do anything to promote it, and then they pull it off the shelf after a week. And it's like, I go through all this work to get a book published and then they don't do anything to help promote the book, and the publisher looks at the author and go, well, that's your job, you still got to promote it. So what many people are starting to realize is like, look, if it's on me to hustle and get my book out there, I might as well just self-publish, keep more of the royalties, get it out there faster. You can have a book out in a week from now with self-publishing, because it might take a year or more with a traditional publisher. So a lot more control with self-publishing. But that being said, hybrid publishing, which is basically kind of like these companies that kind of do self-publishing, but they have a little bit more infrastructure in place, kind of like a traditional publisher. It's like the mix of both worlds. That can be something to explore. And traditional publisher, if you really want to go big time and be in all the stores across the country and stuff like that, you can consider a traditional publisher, in which case you would get an agent, you would do a pitch, and certainly some good books out there I can recommend if you want to look into that. You would just shoot me an email, and then I can give you a little bit more personal advice. Now, if you're doing self-publishing, you need to hire an editor and a graphic designer at a bare minimum. Those are the two big investments that you're going to make. So the next slide is a few examples of some of my book covers. And I want you to ask yourself right now how much you think these book covers cost. And while you're considering that, I want to point out that a huge mistake I see people make, especially when they self-publish, is they slack on the book cover. People will judge your book by its cover. This is not a matter of whether they should or shouldn't. They will. If the cover looks amateurish, they see you as an amateur. See, even though I talk about publishing a book as being a great way to establish yourself as an expert, people realize that almost anyone nowadays can publish a book through self-publishing. So you still have to be professional in your approach and give it the professional, polished appearance, and not just throw together some crappy looking book. So you got to invest. If you invest in anything more than anything else, it's your book cover. I would rather spend hundreds of dollars on a book cover than hundreds of dollars on marketing the book, because all my marketing budget will go to waste if I have a crappy cover. Okay, obviously you do both, but cover is the most important investment. All of these covers, by the way, cost me $30 each through my cover designer, Nathan Dasco. You can always shoot me an email if you want information on his contact information. $30. There's no excuse not to have a good cover made. There's no excuse to try to spend hours designing your own cover. There's really no excuse. There's Fiverr.com for $5 book covers. I don't think that's cutting it nowadays. So invest the $30. Invest a few $100s if you need to get a really good book cover made. And then an editor can be in the hundreds, maybe in the low $1,000 range. I've never spent more than $1,000 on editing, but depends on the length of your books. My books tend to be somewhat shorter. So that it's very feasible. That's where I said if money was the challenge. Keep in mind I did this as a valet parker. It took a lot more hustle. But you can either invest your time in your hustle, or you can invest a little bit of money. It's just got to have that professional appearance. So now finally, promotion. And this really depends on what your goals are. Do you want to be a #1 bestseller? You're going to do some promotion, you're going to learn marketing, or you're just going to hire someone, an agency or some company that knows how to do it for you, which is a great way to do it if you're busy. But either way, you need to do some sort of promotion for the book. The book will not sell itself. I hope you're savvy enough. Obviously, I believe you're savvy enough to realize that a book's not going to sell itself. So when it comes to actually doing the promotion, what you can do is build buzz all along. And that means as you're writing the book, you don't wait until the book is done to start telling people about the book. You can start building buzz if you have an email list. You start letting them know about what you're working on. Hey, I'm working on this new book. What are some of the things you want to hear? Here's a sample from the book. I'm constantly drip feeding little samples and nuggets from a book that I'm working on Facebook, and getting engagement and interaction, building anticipation. People are saying, oh, I can't wait for this new book of yours, right? So that's the way you want to be thinking about building your following and building anticipation before the book launches. And there's two key things that you want to focus on, whether or not you write a book or not. It's list building and leverage. So I'll start with the second part, list building. List building, you have to have an email list these days. There's very few things I say anyone has to do to be successful in business. But these days, I would say building your email list is pretty much essential, or it's very silly not to do it, at least. So building your list is going to be the primary way you can drive sales when your book launches, which is key if you want to hit bestseller status. And also, people might not buy your book right away when they first hear about it. Even if it's people you know and who like you, they're like, great, yeah, okay, thanks for telling me about your book. I'll pick it up later. If they're on your email list, you can shoot follow-up reminders and continue to build value and build a relationship with them. So list building, and then leverage. What do I mean by leverage? You don't have to be the only person talking about your book. For me, when I first got started, my big thing was who has an audience that I want to reach and how do I leverage them? So this is a topic unto itself. But to give you a short and simple example, this could be becoming friends with people in your marketplace and in your industry and working out deals to where they can share your book with their list. Why would they do this? Few reasons. Maybe you create a joint venture deal where for every sale they drive, you give them 50% commission. Maybe you just pay them outright for advertising. Maybe you just are close enough friends with them and develop enough rapport that they're just happy to share your book. Maybe you work out a special deal for their audience. There's a lot of different options, but I want you to get the core message here, which is who else, instead of what can I do, who can help me? That's the 10x thinking concept. So what can I do? Well, I can build my list, and that's only going to get me so far. But who can help me? Who can spread the word for me? Who are my biggest fans that can put the word out there? And if you spend most of your time focusing on getting people on your team, on your street team to help promote your book, that's how you can do one of the things that I did, which was reach a lot of people without a big following. So that's the key concept of leverage. And then finally, do you need to have this all figured out? Obviously, I gave you some of the big picture concepts, and you'll have more clarity now. You'll get sort of the gist of it, but you might be thinking, well, there's some ins and outs and there's some details here that I still need a little bit more clarity on. Like, I mean, just a book title, for instance. You want to have a great book title, but I have a whole training course on doing book titles. Like, there's all these little cans of worms that you open up when you dig into any one of these areas. And so if it feels overwhelming, consider in your own business. If someone wants to get healthy and fit or whatever, why do they come to you? Because you're the expert. You've already figured this all out. It just makes sense for them to come to you instead of for them to go get a bachelor's degree or read an encyclopedia or an anatomy book. They're not going to do that. If you want to fix your car, go to a mechanic or someone who's an expert. So if you want to publish a book, you want to have the big picture overview, but doesn't it just make sense to get some sort of mentorship or coaching when you hit your sticking points, which you're going to hit? Of course it does. So that takes the ease and burden. If you want to make your life a lot easier, you would get some sort of mentorship or coaching. May or may not be from me, but from someone. I would encourage you to get help. And even another way of looking at this is getting feedback just from potential readers about your work as you start to produce content, and getting feedback, running surveys from your clients. You always want to be getting that outside feedback because we just can't see our own blind spots. And then finally, take it one step at a time. I gave you 5 different steps 5 big picture overview steps. And within those steps, there are more steps. And what can happen is the brain looks at all of this and goes, it's like when I look at my whole apartment to clean, I go, screw this, I can't clean all this. And there's something, I believe it was Alex Mendosian said, you can't do everything, but you can do anything one thing at a time. And that's what I have to remind myself. When I look at my whole apartment to clean, I remind myself, Derek, you don't need to clean the whole thing. You just need to wipe off the countertop, and that's it for now. And then you go put this thing over here away, and then you do this. It's only one thing at a time. So what's the one thing that you can start doing right away? Well, here is your bare minimum action plan to get you going on your book. Write down 5 similar books and 5 similar authors to what you want to write. And even if you're not sure what you want to write, just do it anyway. Just come up with something. Your intentions can change over time. My books constantly evolve and shift, where my book Breakthrough Your BS started out as a book called Don't Do This, like 7 self-help myths about something. It was a totally different concept, but I got started with something and then I let it evolve. So find some similar books in the health and fitness world related to your industry that you can go, okay, maybe I can do something kind of like that. And maybe I can maybe these authors are kind of similar to what I'm doing. Find something as your role models, and then ask 5 people in your market what their #1 challenge is in achieving their health goals. Whatever market you're in, ask them about their challenges, ask them about their struggles, and really get clear on the problems that you're solving with your book. And your book might be how to fix the problem. Your book might be educational. Here's why you need to go see a personal trainer. Here's why you need to go see a chiropractor. Here's the benefits of it. It could just be motivating them to take action on something else after they're done reading the book, right? But their challenge is maybe in that case, well, I just don't see the benefit in it, or I don't, whatever it is. And then finally, create 5 short 1-minute pieces of content. Actually create something that's a post on Facebook, it's a tweet, it's a video, it's an article that you write on a blog. I don't care how many people see it. I don't care how good it is or bad it is. Just create some short pieces of content to share a lesson that's related to your industry, why you do what you do, why it's important that people come and see people like you to get help with their goals. What's something that you wish everyone knew? What's something that pisses you off? Don't think about it too much. Just create some short pieces of content. And I say 1 minute. What does that mean? It means a 1-minute video. It means 2 paragraphs of content. It means just a tweet that you just write off the top of your head. Force yourself to just create it in a minute, spur of the moment, where you're not worried about quality. And there's some benefits to this, and that you just build some momentum as you start to create some stuff. You see that you can do it if you're not used to doing it. And if you are used to doing it, then maybe challenge yourself to do it through a different medium. And then you also get some feedback from people. So as I just write a little Facebook post sharing a lesson, I hear people saying how it helped them. What can I do? I follow up. Hey, great. I noticed you liked my post. What did you find helpful about it? What are you working on right now? What are some of your struggles? And by putting things out in the world, seeing who responds to it, I now learn so much more about the people that I can reach with my message. Now, that's your bare minimum action plan. You have all of that. So write a note on that. 5 similar books, 5 similar authors, 5 people what their #1 challenge is, and then 5 1-minute pieces of content. Really easy. You can do this in a week, and if it takes you more than 5 minutes a day, you're doing something wrong. And then finally, what I have here is that, let's make sure this updates. Your bare minimum action plan part 2. Stay tuned for updates from Andres, because Andres has his summit, and I hope I'll be seeing you there. I'll be there with my business partner, Ben Potwa. If you want more from me in the meantime, then ebookbestsellersecrets.com is where you can sign up for my newsletter, how you can stay in touch with me, and info@ebookbestsellersecrets. Any questions about things you've seen on here, you want to pick my brain about something, feel free to shoot me an email. If you say you came from this particular webinar presentation, then I'm happy to give you a little bit, I can give you a 15-minute consult. I'll cover the cost. I'll just do that to help Andres out. Just be like, I came through Andres in this particular webinar, and I'll just make sure that I spend a little extra time with you to get your questions answered and make sure that you get the hookup. And finally, facebook.com/my name. Derek Doepker, DEREK, Connect with me on Facebook, and that's another way that we can stay in touch. That's everything from me, Andres. Is there anything that you would like to pick my brain about that I can help share?
Hey, Derek, honestly, you were super thorough, in depth. I know you have a lot more to share, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. That was great information, and we really look forward to seeing you in at the Wealth and Health Business Summit. I did have a question in regards to, how, I'm not sure if you covered this. How important is it to just buy URLs of your book once you come up with titles?
That's a great question. I've heard Rick Frischman, who teaches authors at Author 101, he basically says if you don't have the URL, it's not your book title. That's how strongly he feels about it. So he's like, if you do a search, you come up with a book title and you do a search and it's been taken, it's not your book title. Now, there might be a little bit of an exception to that. Maybe it's, book title and then it ends with the word book. So let's say Breakthrough Your BS was taken. It would be breakthroughbyourbsbook.com could have been a URL. So yes, if you come up with the title, get the URL. If you're even thinking about the title, before I settled on that title for my book, I went ahead and grabbed the URL for it. So I would say that it's pretty important. There can be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, yeah, you want to get the URL.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for answering that. And once again, Derek, thanks so much for being on this call with us. I got so much from it, so much value. I hope everybody else did too. I'm just going to wrap up this call real quick with making sure that if you haven't already, that you get your tickets to the Wealth and Health Business Summit. So you guys see it right here. Here's the website. You can go to whbit.com. That's William Henry Boy Summit.com, Wealth Health Business Summit. And get your tickets now for $97. I mean, the deal is freaking amazing.
Andres, just real quick, I don't see it on my screen now. I see it. There we go.
So there's the page, and obviously we have Derek that's going to be there at the event, myself, and all the way to the left you have Thomas Tadlock, which Derek. Oh yeah, we worked an event together with Thomas in Los Angeles, correct? He was the lead trainer for that event. You were there for that event?
I don't believe it was the one where he was the lead trainer.
Got it. So
but I've seen him speak and stuff. He's amazing.
And his ads for the book that his wife just wrote on curing lupus are all over the place. They're on a book tour right now. Thomas has opened up over 150 gyms in Orange County, #1 top-selling fitness Groupon in California. So you see the lineup here. Mo Hassan, he's a business systems expert. So this gentleman knows how to automate businesses. Especially, I think that you'll see what you two do goes really hand in hand, because he can really help with how to simply format a book when it comes to formatting, when it comes to technology, when it comes to CRMs and all the crazy little detail operations to handling a business. He really helps simplify all those things. So I think we got a pretty stacked cast for this event, and I'm excited. And tickets are $97 for 2 full days, so you can't beat that. But once again, Derek, thank you so much for being with us. It definitely means a lot. And we hope to bug you again and have you on one of these webinars soon again. Sound good?
It sounds good. It's an honor to be here, share what I can, and I'm excited about the Wealth and Health Business Summit, and I'll be sharing even more tips and insights. So when you get there, I hope to see that you made a little progress on your book and your book ideas. So come ready, and then you can pick my brain in person, and my business partner Ben Potland. We can get you even more clarity to move forward with it.
Sounds good. Derek, thanks again. The offer, you guys can go to whbsummit.com, or I've put up the link right in the offers tab on the top right-hand side of your little Webinar Jam control panel. Other than that, guys, I'm going to leave that up for a little bit longer. And Derek, thanks again. Signing off.
Yeah, thanks, Andres. Take care.
Bye, Derek.